Tax mentioned earlier, so I'll have to bring up another tax question. It seems like I have a lot of those. To Jan, how will you work to create a more equitable, less regressive tax structure in the state?
All right, I agree that we need tax reform. And when I was serving on the Puget Sound Regional Council for Kitsap County, one of the things through the Economic Committee that I worked on was to start the discussions about tax reform for this state. But you have to go about that very carefully. I totally agree that business and occupational tax is killing business. That's a tax that is on the gross receipts, no matter what they make as a net. So there are a recommendation coming out right now from the Washington Policy Center on a flat tax that might be more equitable, and that might be a possibility in that area. That needs to be looked at. When you look at the tax reform, you can't go out there and saddle people with income tax or more taxes without removing a lot of the taxes you already have. People are already to the point they can't afford it. We had 5,000 people on the front steps at Olympia saying, we can't take this anymore, and we can't add more tax without a new discussion of how it's going to work.
Thank you.
So Washington State has already spoken very clearly on the issue of income tax. It has come up and gone down 3 times. I think the discussion of income tax, flat or progressive, is a dead issue unless it comes from the people. It's not going to be an issue that will come to the fore anymore through the political system or through the legislative system. That's for certain. When we have this conversation about taxes, we need to have this in a very serious way to deal with the issue of the most regressive tax structure in the entire United States. We're killing our small businesses, we're killing our medium-sized businesses, and the only way we're going to make this recession any better is to grow our economies by advantaging our small and medium-sized businesses. Thank you.
So now focusing a little bit further on taxes, the state is looking at implementing an income tax. How do you think this would affect our economy here in the 6th District? Would you support it?
Well, thank you for that question. I just answered it. No, I would not support an income tax. I do believe that it ought to be a part of the conversation. We need to explore every possible avenue to deal with the issue of the regressive tax situation that we have, which again is highly disadvantaging our small and medium-sized businesses. I feel as though our tax structure is something that we are able to get on top of. But I'm going to tell you this right now, it has to come from you. And so I challenge everybody in this room to come up with the good ideas and to direct us in how we need to proceed in the state of Washington from a tax structure perspective.
I think you've heard both of us say you got to get people working again, and we've got to strengthen small business. When you take a tax such as the income tax is structured, it appears that you're only going to be hitting the higher echelon, but you're going to be hitting potentially employers, which means if you hurt the employers, how do they then continue to create jobs or even retain what they have? You can't do that. You're putting the nose under the tent. You really are. And the minute I-960 was gutted by the legislature, what makes you think that they couldn't readjust this from 200,000 down to 100,000, down to 50,000, and it's an income tax that's going to hit everybody in this room for the benefit of maybe 4% on your property taxes? Not a good idea.
Now this is a tough audience because they just won't let this issue go to rest. And this is the last tax question, I promise, because gets to the crux of the matter. And the question is, starting with you, Jen,
okay.
Will you raise taxes?
No. I made the commitment to you when you elected me last time that I would not vote for one new tax or one new fee. I didn't miss a vote, and I kept that promise to you. Our people, if we are listening, are saying we can't take this anymore. We can't continue to use taxes as the solution. We have people, our people believe in a fair, predictable tax base. And nobody's opposed to paying their fair share. But we added $800 million in new taxes in 1 year, the most in the history of the state of Washington. We can't continue along that line.
I will never raise taxes as a first resort. It is the charge of the Washington State Constitution that we must tax to provide the essential services that our government must provide. That is the conversation that we need to have, ladies and gentlemen. We need to define what the essential services of the government are, and we need to fund them. And if that requires taxation, then that is what we are required to do. My thought is, however, that that is and must be a last resort. We've got $200 billion, as I mentioned, in tax exemptions out there. Some of these tax exemptions are anachronistic and they are irrelevant. They do not produce any revenue for the state, and we must deal with them. And we must deal with this black market economy, which is losing a huge source of tax revenue through employment, through the employment system. Thank you.